Yesterday it was day 15 of the entire build, so 2 weeks to build this airplane approximately. I covered the inboard side, but today I'm going to cover the outboard side, and I'm going to make out of these videos a dedicated video how to finish an airplane. Everybody's is always asking me, how do I finish an airplane and get it so light? Well, I'm going to do that video out of these videos and make it available. So if you miss something here, you don't, if you happen not to watch all 15 or 16 hours of the finishing video, we're going to cut it down into a single, probably hour-long video to show you the process from absolute start to finish. But it's a real easy process. Silkspan is real easy to apply, and I'm going to show you one more time today. I'm only going to include this once in the finishing video, but I'll show you one more time today how to get this on and get it 100% tight and wrinkle free. There's not a wrinkle. My covering never has wrinkles in it, never, because of the way I do it. And it's real simple. I mean, it is so simple. So we've got 4 coats of dope on the wood, and the amount of coats can go from 3 to 4. But the first thing that you want to do is make sure the airframe is sanded free, and I sanded free of any bumps. I mean, it's got to be super smooth. The covering is only as good as the woodwork underneath it. Now, this is Brodak light silkspan, free flight stuff, or whatever. We used to call it double-aught when K&S was selling it. And this stuff, the quality of this stuff is not as good as the old K&S stuff, but it's what we got. I don't know what material it is. If I did, I would buy a roll of it, because it's obviously the paper company, Kimberly-Clark, whoever they get it from. The paper company is not making this paper for model airplanes. They're making it for something else. Dress lining, who knows what it is. So you set it up there and you put it up next to the center section of the fuselage. This is where you're going to pull from. You're going to pull from fuselage out to the tip. That's the first pull. So I use Windex or a derivative thereof. You can use window washing fluid. This is generic stuff. Awesome window cleaner by Vitropy or whatever. Cheap stuff comes from the dollar store. But Windex is what I started with when I started doing this. And the reason I use Windex is because it has alcohol and ammonia in it to keep it from freezing or whatever, and it evaporates real fast. You can use straight water. It doesn't matter. But I'm always asked why I use Windex, and that's the reason. It doesn't stain anything or it might leave a little blue in it. I don't know. The dye. It doesn't matter. The nice thing about doing this method is that you can reposition it should you have a problem. You haven't doped it. Well, you'll see here in a second. So we're 5 minutes in with the assertion of all this nonsense, and I'm going to show you just how long it takes to do this. Probably about 15 minutes to get it on there right. So I take the spray bottle and lightly spritz it. Get it pretty wet. You know, I make it pretty damn wet. And now you just pull out the wrinkles. Remember, silkspan doesn't shrink. Is when you get this in your head, when you get this statement I'm going to make in your head, exactly how silkspan works, you'll go, hey, eureka! Silkspan doesn't shrink. Period. It doesn't. It none of this tissue shrinks. It relaxes when wet. So you want to stretch it, get all the wrinkles out while it's wet. And once you get all the wrinkles out and get it doped down, when it dries, it goes back to its natural shape. And once you figure this out, that out, you go, hey, no wonder why my silkspan jobs are wrinkly. I ain't pulling it tight enough. So the wetter that you get it, the easier it is to relax. And you just go around the airframe and pull all the wrinkles out until it looks as good as you want it to look finished. But it ain't, because it ain't dry. You just pull all the wrinkles out. See how simple that is? Notice I haven't put any dope down yet, so I can move this stuff. And you start doping from this section right here. And even if you dope it down, you can move it by painting thinner over the top of the dope, or just coating it with another coat of dope to loosen it up. Now I still have some wrinkles in this area, and this area. And we want to get them out. So we just pull it over. So simple. Work out towards the tip. Normally, I do the tip first before putting it, doping the trailing edge down, because it gives you a little leeway to move the wrinkles like that. See, we got it, because of the tip, we got a wrinkle moving back that way. So let's get the tip doped down. Take your finger, rub the dope through the paper. You're trying to get a chemical bond between the coats that you put on first, the 3 or 4 coats that you put on first, through the paper, forcing the dope through the paper and locking up to the dope underneath on the wood. See, the wrinkles are migrating. Silkspan is the easiest to put on. Silk is easy too. And if it quits, the wrinkles quit pulling, put some more Windex on. Get it wetter. Relax it some more. Hey, RC Fred. Japanese tissue does not bend as easy. It's just very stiff. It's like notebook paper. It's rice. It's made out of rice. So it takes a little more effort. Now, when I polyspan, I've done some polyspan videos. I use the same method as I do here on silkspan, exact same method, except for when I'm going around tips, you have to add heat. So it's a combination of a monocoat technique and a silkspan technique. If you go back and look at my video, how to polyspan, and see, I find wrinkles in the covering 100% unacceptable. You know, if it's good enough for who it's for, well, and you accept it, well, like right here, we're going to have a problem right there. So I need to loosen this up, pick it up, and pull it. There it is. And use your fingers and rub that stuff down, because otherwise when it dries, it'll lift off the airframe and you won't be a happy camper. Now here we have a wrinkle that's migrating in this direction, so we're going to end up having to lift it right here. But I don't want to lift it right there yet and get ahead of myself. Japanese tissue is stronger than silkspan. It's very difficult to put on though. Good morning. Nasty wind and rain here in South Florida. Keeping the graphics on your gas hydro. Japanese tissue is the strongest, but it's the hardest to put on. It takes a lot of patience. Totally doable. I can't get it on the wings myself. There's some technique using glue that. Oh, see now I need to add some more Windex to that to loosen it up, because it's getting dry. And so we'll put that right there. So I'm pulling it in two directions here. I'm pulling it towards the fuselage and back away from the leading edge. So just to get that wrinkle out. It's a compound wrinkle that I work that wrinkle all the way from the tip because the tip is a curve. That wrinkle traveled along the length of the wing. So we'll let this dry here. See how it turned out, and then I'll cut the excess off of this. It's drying right now. You know, you can see the water or the Windex dissipating. This might be a problem right there. I just this technique here was really I learned this technique really making kites when I was a kid out of with newspaper. We made some big kites. You get kite string, use 3, 4 rolls of kite string on a kite that was 5 foot wide and 7 foot tall. Let it out, and it'd be pulling like a bitch. The string would be blowing like that. It'd be like that big kite would be just a little dot off in the corner. My dad taught me how to make kites. My dad grew up in the Depression. And them guys had to make their own fun. So if you wanted something like this, and it's always been that way, if you wanted something like this, you got to make it. And that's the whole problem with society today. Nobody makes nothing. They're sitting on their phone expecting China to make it. And that's not a good thing. This is going to be a nice profile. Yeah, I got some that I paid $15 a sheet for because it was oddball size. It's 18 by 30. Japanese tissue usually only comes 24 by 24, but this is 18 by 30, and it was made for the free flight guys. I bought, I think I bought 10 rolls or 10 sheets. I think I got 4 or 6 sheets left to use of that real high dollar stuff. But how it's made is they make a frame, ever what size they want, and they have a slurry. I don't know how they get it started, but they have a slurry of stuff, and they start dipping it in and out of that slurry, and then pick it up and let it dry. And that's how the paint is made of rice. I'd have to do a YouTube search and see how is Japanese tissue made, but So what did that take? Took 15 minutes to get that covering on. And it'll be 100% perfect. So the covering goes from the leading edge around the trailing edge to the top of the other side, which is actually the bottom edge you're looking at, but it is the top of the wing. And the bottom sheet or the top sheet comes around, flips around, and goes all the way to this edge. So that way, and that's the same with the leading edge. So that way that your wing is kind of bagged up. Well, basically like you do monocoat, to try to hide the seam. Well, these seams sand out no problem, so you can't see them. But it adds a little strength, so it's double covered on the leading and trailing edge. And when you're doing a non-traditional wing, or a wing that's traditional wing, this is the lightest silk span that Brodeck has. Light silk span. That's all I use. When you're doing they were discussing this on the hangout. When you're doing silk span on a built up wing that's not a beam wing, you want to go from the tip past the center line to the other side edge of the sheeting on top, and then this wing comes to the other side, so you got double overlap right in the center. Oh, I remember they were asking about, do you silk span a wing before you put it in the fuselage? I've done it both ways. It makes no difference. You can take a pin and poke little punch holes in it to make sure that the glue gets down through the covering and laminates to the laminates wood to wood. But I'll tell you, the way that I do things, it's not necessary, because my built-up fuselages are super fill. They have a fillet of super fill inside the fuselage and outside the fuselage around the wing, bonding that wing to the fuselage. You basically, when I build, I try to make the airplane one piece. It's a culmination of a whole lot of pieces, but the way my stuff is keyed together, glued, it's one solid piece when I'm done. You don't want just shit sitting just on top of something, and not much glue area. You want it really bonded, so when it hits the ground, it just explodes. That's the safest way. So basically what I'm doing here, is pulling the excess tissue off. It leaves a ragged edge halfway past the center line of the leading edge. You can do that on the bottom. It's a jagged edge. You don't want to cut a straight line, because that'll leave a straight line. If you do this jagged edge like this, like that, and you dope it down, and you come back and the jagged edge is reversed on this side, when you sand it, it disappears. Well, I wonder how many snafus I'm going to have in this airplane before I get the clear on it. I normally end up poking at least 1 or 2 holes in the wing. So it was asked on here, is this light silkspan? Yes, it's the lightest I can get. The reason being, the strength of the covering does not come from the paper. It does not. It comes from the dope. If you were to take GM silkspan, which is the heavyweight gas model silkspan, thickest stuff you can get, put it on the airplane. Now remember, this is that paper's twice as thick as this. Put it on the airplane with, let's just say, 3 coats of dope, and then go fly. Then you take this gas or the free flight stuff, the lightest stuff they got, and put 6 coats of dope on it. Which one's stronger? The one with 6 coats. The dope is what gives you the strength. The paper is what holds the dope. That's all, the only difference. And it takes more to fill that thick paper. Silkspan from SIG, is that really same quality as Brodak? No. But I don't know now. I hate to knock Brodak, but in my opinion, Brodak Silkspan is poor quality. But it's all I can get. K&S no longer makes Silkspan. K&S was the best. And this stuff here, you have to watch it. You have to kind of really watch it. It gets pinholes in it. Like I can see a pinhole right there. And you have to add the dope differently with this Silkspan. You have to have the first coat go down 100% so it fills them pinholes. And then come back with your slurry, your all right, we have that done. That turned out 100% perfect. Get this camera here. It's a real simple process. It's over 100 years old. The same process used on real airplanes, basically without the steam. I would say that polyspan is probably closer to real airplane covering. Get that down. Now this covering is not quite dry, but it's close enough to show you. We can do the other side now. So let me change camera. I'll get this in my hand. There's absolutely 0 wrinkles anywhere, and it's real simple. Now, if you get a wrinkle on the wood, like here's a slight little crease or whatever, don't worry about it. After you get 3 or 4 coats of dope on it, you hit that with sandpaper, that'll go away. But there's no wrinkle in the covering in the center here. And as I've told you, these tips I think they cover probably the best out of all the tips I've designed, or whatever you want to call it. Doing it this way makes the waterfall, so to speak, the fall of the tissue, effortless. Put this up here. I'll go down that way. Let's see if we can't get a better vantage point of what I'm doing. Okay, we're gonna, oh, let's see here. Thank you, Colin. Let's see, we want to zoom in on this because we're going to do a close-up. Because like I said, I'm going to do an edited version of this. I've already saved it to my computer, so. Okay. Now this swing here is going to be a little tricky because of the push rod, but not undoable. So what I do here is I'm going to get a length, and I'm going to cut this to length. I don't like having all this silk span hanging off the tip. I really can't get any leverage on it. So we'll cut it 2 inches away from the end of the tip. Let's see, I'm gonna have to pull it this way. Yeah. So we want to make a little hole for the push rod to sit through. Okay, good enough. We'll split this down. Start working it. It's real simple. You can see that's pretty damn wet. Water pooling. So because of this, I'm going to dope this down first in the center, which I normally pull it all, get it all pulled first, but because we got a hole here and it's going to be difficult, I want to make sure this is down. I got to go around this horn, control horn here. So let's see here. Cut this up this way. These scissors are shit. They don't cut wet paper. Try this blade. Don't get in a panic. You got plenty of time to work this. If you make a mistake, just wet it and reposition it. Patience. Come on, get out. There, there. Get this tucked behind it. Get a popsicle stick. There we go. I'm gonna have to watch this because I'm not gonna be able to position from the inboard side. So we'll pull this straight. And pull her straight. No, this is not silk. Silk is cloth. This is paper. It's tissue. You know, when you say tissue, are you talking about Japanese tissue? This stuff is just like tea bag material. And it's probably, you know, it's. I know that it's not made for control line airplane or for model airplanes. It's made for something else. I just can't figure out what it's used in. And as soon as I could figure out what it's used in, I could go right direct to the source and buy a roll. And seeing as I mean, I've silk spanned more this year than I did in prior years because I'm home and I built 3 airplanes in the last 4 months, 5 months. But you don't do it that often, so I really didn't. I really haven't researched it to see exactly what it's made out of because it's not that important. You know, I just buy a couple of sheets of silk span from Brodak and be done with it. It's too expensive from Brodak though. I think it's $7 for 2 sheets now. It's ridiculous. They're pricing their way out of model making. See, I'm just working the wrinkles out, working towards the tip. There we go. There it is. So you want this covering tight as you can get it before it dries. Otherwise, you have baggers. And that applies to monocoque too, by the way. You know how when you see an airplane sitting at the field out in the sun and the covering's baggy with monocoque? It's because it was applied incorrectly. They put it on and shrunk it. This stuff has a memory. Monocoque has a memory. Whatever it was manufactured at, that's where it's going to want to go back to. So, in order to get a non-bagging monocoque finish, pull it tight before you put the heat to it. Try it, and you'll be surprised. Why didn't I know that? I figured that out in the 90s when I did a couple of monocoque control line stunt planes. It's one thing I didn't like about monocoque. It's always baggy in the sun. That's because you put too much heat to it. It's trying to go back to its memorized position. And this is the same. Silkspan does the same thing too. Because I got an airplane where I made a mistake and didn't get it quite tight enough, and in the high humidity of the summer days, the silkspan will bag. Now that can happen from one of two things. Of course, I know what it happened from. In my case, putting the grain in the wrong direction, which I never do, but it can happen, and not pulling it tight enough pre-dry of the water, which happens. I mean, as you guys know on my channel here, I make mistakes, and that's just the way it is. We all make mistakes. It's just how you get out of them. I got a pretty good sense of how to fix mistakes that I make because I've made them all. So here the tissue is starting to dry a little bit. That's right, let's go. So we add a little spritz of water. That way it relaxes that paper again. And I'm rolling this, keeping tension on this and rolling it with my finger and thumb. Come on. To get it loosened up again. Shit. Might have a problem here. We'll see. We'll see when it dries. Pretty good. Loosen this and pull it around the back. Yeah, let's go. You know who, I know. Thank you. I think I'll make this video available to my members of the channel. The edited version of this out of silkspan. So if you're not a member, please consider becoming a member. Okay. Now I have a slight wrinkle there. I can't work it out because I'd have to work it all the way to the root of the wing, and I can't do the root of the wing because I have the push rod there. It's very slight. We're going to see real quick if it comes out. And if it comes out, we won't worry about it. If it doesn't come out, I'll re-wet it and move it. And it came out, so we're good. Tight as a drum. Ah, shit, that's hot. Tight as a drum. Let's see how this is going to come out over here. Each application has, its own nuances. So how you do it is, the basic premise behind it is all the same, but how the execution goes down depends on the situation, such as this area right here. How would you finish that off? Well, I'm going to cut that and wrap it inside that hole, but you can't see what I'm doing there. You can't see because it's on the other side. So let's zoom in here. We have a unique situation with the push rod sticking out here. This is still pretty wet, so I don't want to disturb it right yet. We'll let it dry out. With this push rod sticking through, so I need to cut it in the center and wrap it around inside the hole so it grabs that area. Then the cover is going to go on up to the fuselage, and we'll do that today too. But the superfill goes on after you get the covering on. Very important. After you get the covering on. So now I'm going to pull this paper away from the leading edge. It's still wet, so it leaves a crappy looking line, but you don't want a straight line, trust me. You don't want a straight line. You want it to look just like that, ragged edges. And that will 100% disappear. So I just take the dope and you dope this down and rub it in. So, on this tip. Nothing funkier than to see an airplane covered with wrinkles in it. It just bothers the crap out of me. Because I know how easy it is to do. But you know, if you don't have somebody show you, it could be challenging. So that's the reason for the channel. And you don't want to sand any of this stuff till you get at least 3 coats of dope on it. Some people say different, but I like to get 3 coats of dope on the, this is the first one, then we'll come back and we'll go around the entire perimeter with another coat around the perimeter and then let it dry and then another coat. And then you can kind of start sanding because you're going to be starting to put dope on all the paper. You got to get it sealed down real good. I think I'm going to have to mix up some more of this slurry crap. There we go. Let's see what happens. I have to reshape that hard line right there. We'll get it. We'll get it. Now, straight line cut edge. We'll go back to the other camera because I want to turn this airplane over. And cut from this side. New razor blade. So this is about the only time that I use a straight line is I use it on the trailing edges because it's easy to do. Okay. So I just covered this this wing in an hour. So you can figure that it's going to take 2 hours to cover a wing complete, because I did one wing last night, took about an hour. So 30 minutes a wing at a side. Seems like it got lighter when I got the covering on it. Yeah. Now here's where we got the problem with all this rigmarole going on here. We need to cut, bend, whatever I got to do to get that shit laid down. I need dope on that. Is it better to do a super chat here, or yeah, here is fine. Super chat here is fine. Fine and appreciative. You know, YouTube's watching the metrics all the time. Okay, so I'm going to cut this away this side, and we're going to try to fold this back under. We'll use a popsicle stick for that. That way it won't poke so damn hard. There it is. That worked perfect. Rub it down. Yeah, if this content helps you, there we go, John. Thank you. Please, everybody. I am using tinted dope. White tinted dope. Thank you very much for the super chat. Let's put that up for the world to see. If this content helps you, please consider becoming a member. That's cost you $4.99 a month or whatever, and a super chat would be nice. Buys us a little, coffee or whatever, and helps me keep this thing going. It takes a lot of work to do stun hair. problem here. Need to get that to lay down there. I have to just cut that off. Everything is a trade-off. You got to think, you know, what if I do this, what's going to happen? Yep, we're going to just cut that off. We'll put an extra piece in later. There we go. That's exactly correct. Stun hanger, the server is like renting an apartment without living there. And this is like having a job but not getting paid. And get criticized for doing it. Okay, Frank from Frank's Model Aviation. That's how I went around the push rod. They were worried that I couldn't go around the push rod. I'm never worried. When I started cutting into this thing, they were freaking out. No big deal. We'll get it figured out. Don't panic. It's only wood. See, the nice thing about this is if I don't like it, I can wad it up and hit the big circle file with it and start again. No big deal. If it was metal, you couldn't dispose of it. How would you get rid of it? Almost dry. Almost dry. Let's see how it looks. Put a hinge pocket there. One there. Now these need to be covered as well. Everything, all wood surfaces get covered with something. And ask, why am I not using tinted dope? Well, tinted dope is, this wood is whiter than when it started because it has 4 coats of tinted dope on it. By the time you get ready to paint, it'll be pretty white. Just the way it is. Just the way it is. Yeah, it stayed tight. About the only problem I see with this type system is that there's really not enough, there's only a 1/4 inch between here and the hole in the side of the fuselage. It's really not much holding that covering right there. So I got to make sure. And then when I do the fillet, it's going to have to be a little tiny fillet because I only got that much. Can't be a big fillet. So let's hide that. Feels good though. Feels good. We got all the crinkles out of it. I think today I'm going to get my crock pot out and start heating up that case. I'll get this this motor, the liner put in this motor. This is the engine that goes in this airplane. It'll be brand new when I get done with it. Okay, I'm gonna sit down here for a second. Old and tired. Now, when you're doing real airplanes, you go around the edges and you steam it. Not iron it, you steam it to get the fabric to shrink. I'm probably one of the only guys you'll ever meet who has worked on an F4U Corsair. In the Navy, they had a F4U up by the tower, and I was corrosion control, AMS, aviation structure mechanic, and Heminger says, "Can you, you do model airplane? Can you do dope?" Yeah, I do dope all the time. Well, go down there and see if you can fix that down there. And I went down there and fixed the fabric on that airplane, and then painted it navy blue. See, being an AMS, my job was to look for intergranular corrosion, dissimilar metal corrosion, working rivets, and we had a real unique fix for working rivets. They never took them out and re-bucked them. They just took tape and they made a 1 inch wide, 1 inch wide area around the rivet, and we took a flap wheel and ground it down and put on this brown goop. I don't, everything. I'm sure it had a name, but it all it had was a mil spec number. She trowel on that goop and then paint it over with epoxy. That was their fix. And on F-14s, there was lots of working rivets. Lots of working rivets. But our airplanes looked really nice. I was for did you say about steaming the tissue? I can use it to remove a wrinkle. Get a monocoat gun, a heat gun like this, and from a distance start closing on it. Be careful, you'll burn it. Dope burns. It'll melt and bubble. Don't bubble it, and heat around the wrinkle. Now, if you got a wrinkle here, let's say you got a wrinkle here, don't just point the heat at the wrinkle. Point the heat up around here. You want to get a large area to shrink that wrinkle out. You don't want to just try to heat right there. So heat around the wrinkle and shrink it from the outside in. I worked on my Enya TV 3060 overnight in the sonic cleaner. Used alcohol and acetone. Steaming real aircraft. That's how you tighten the covering up on real aircraft. You have it's a steam generator on I don't know, it kind of looks like an iron. And you steam that gets the covering to shrink up. I don't steam this stuff because it's a different material. If you're using coverall, SIG coverall, that's like real aircraft covering material. Very similar, only lighter weight. When I did my, if you go back on my shoestring build, for the scale plane, I used SIG coverall on the fuselage because tissue, I was going to silkspan it, but there was so many compound curves on that fuselage, I had to use coverall. So, and that takes quite a bit of dope to fill. But I did use polyspan on the wings. So each application has different, you know, you got to think about it. One size does not fit all. That's what I'm getting at. Let's see what it looks like here. I'm going to show you the difference in the sizes of the airplanes here. And there's really not much. We're going to hold this airplane up to my other airplane hanging on the wall here and see what the difference in size is. I think it's 3 inches difference. Come on, get in there. There it is. Come on, you get in there. There it is. Okay, let's see what the difference in the size of the airplanes is. Just to give you an idea of how big this profile is. Got that one hanging on the wall there. This ain't got no landing gear on it, so that's good except the tail wheel. Pretty much the same size, you know, a little shorter and about 3 inches in the wing. Let me look here. A little shorter and 3 inches in the wing. I'm happy with the progress. Yeah, rib stitching. Oh boy, isn't that fun. Okay, so now I guess that's probably going to end this section. Take a break, and when I come back, we'll start doing silkspan on the bare wood. I got to dig out that tissue I'm going to use. I think we'll use them squares that I got that are short. Why somebody would cut up K&S silkspan into 24-inch squares, I got no idea. It's unusable for wings. I got a hard spot in the rudder I can't get out until I get it covered. Well, we got 18 watchers. Maybe I'll just continue on going if you guys want. We'll go for a little while anyway. But I'm gonna have to take a break here. Been at this now 2 hours. The job's almost done. The job is almost done. So after you get it to this state, the whole airplane covered with the Brodak silkspan, because it has pinholes, or you can get pinholes, or some of it has pinholes. John always wonders how I get the Brodak tissue to come out with no pinholes or very few, because the first coat that I put on this may be 100% dope to fill those pinholes, and then go on with your 50-50. You kind of gotta, everything's an educated guess at this, there's no one set rule for anything, is what I'm getting at. So, let's see, this is 400, this is good. So I want to knock these wrinkles down, the wad where it wrinkled up on the paper, get some more dope on it. Clean up the edges. There's not enough dope to really sand on this. You just clean up the edges till they're smooth. Add some more dope. I had a little spot here. I need to reshape. And this job come out good. Come out good. Perfect. Perfect. If it ain't perfect, it ain't right. Don't leave any crap floating around inside the wing. That'll drive you bonkers. You hear it buzzing when it's running. Wrinkles are no good. Lumps are no good. Well, I hope this silkspan tutorial helped. A lot of people struggle with silkspan. It's real simple. If you got a wrinkle in it, you didn't do it right. And don't kick yourself in the head for messing up, because everybody messes up. You know, it takes a lot of practice. I've been doing this 60 years. So to get it on there, you know, it looks pretty simple. It is simple, but it just takes a little practice to know where to pull. Totally doable. When you're making your tips, think about the covering. I've made all kind of tips. These are the easiest I've made so far. I see a problem that's going to happen right there. So we're going to try to fix that right now. We'll get the fix going. What I got going there is that I sanded that rib, that last rib, a few thousandths too low. It should be a couple of thousandths higher so that it touches the covering, and I can push the covering down there. Does it really hurt anything? No, but it doesn't. The finish doesn't look good when that happens. So I got to go around and check all them tails, and it usually only happens on the tails. I'll get that glued to the rib. Now it's glued down. There it is. So I'll have to go over all these ribs and make sure that they're okay. Touching. That one's not touching, see? Not this, where'd it go? Yeah, this one right here. So I sanded that too low. It's only by a few thousandths, but that's all it takes to make the covering job not look pro. Of course, why didn't you fall on the floor? So I have to go around and check all the tails. Better check the fronts too, I guess. Yep, that glued down. Yep, that looks good. There's one. See, that won't really show up until it's covered with, it's got a shine on it. But that's pretty indicative of I-beam wings. Not so much a D-tube or one with cap strips on it, but I-beam wing with all these ribs, you got to make sure that they're pushed down and stuck to the rib. And I'll go over. There's another one right there. Yeah. Only takes a couple thousandths. So it looks like I'm going to go over all of them. We'll go over all of them and stick them down. I want this profile to be super outstanding, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna really pay attention to these things. Right there. This is why they stitch ribs in real airplanes, so that the covering stays detached to the rib. But we ain't stitching this. We're just sticking it down. Hopefully it'll stick. Yeah. We're going to be going over all of them. Yeah, why didn't you fall on the floor? Should have fell on the floor. So I had to bend over and pick it up. See what happens here is if this rib and this rib are higher than this rib, the covering's taut and it lifts off the rib. Even though I sanded it with a T-bar, it's just the way this works. You know, if it flexes just a little bit, you get a couple thousandths variance. They just stick it down. I guess we're going to spend the rest of this video doing this, getting these ribs stuck down. I guess I ought to just bite the bullet and start at the tip and do them all. Get out my striping brush so I yeah. I'd like to see what kind of difference this is going to make on the finish. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do every rib. Make sure it's stuck down. That way I don't have any mistakes in the covering. I noticed I had a couple mistakes in the others that I just did. We'll do them all. We'll do them all. Okay, I got them. But I'm going to go ahead and do them all the whole way, both sides, top and bottom. I'll do the whole rib. That's something that I've never done before, but I've just, because I've covered 3 of these airplanes, 3 Beamers in the last 4 months. On the other ones, I didn't pay attention, and if you look at, well, that one's not too bad. Simply Blues has a spot on it, but where the variance is a couple of thousandths, it'll leave a little 1-inch lift mark, and it doesn't, to me, it doesn't look good. So we'll go back over and I'll address all that. Yep, we need some more juice. Any questions, guys? You gotta be real careful with this shit. Get on there and make a funky spot in the wing. I better wash my hands after touching this stuff. Yeah, that looks much better. Push down on there like so. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do each rib. Make sure it's glued to the rib. Not only that, it'll make it stronger. See, a beam wing in itself is very weak. But the sum of the total, the sum of the parts, you know, the total sum of the parts is what gives you the strength. This piece is pulling against that piece, is pulling against the next piece, becomes a monocoque situation. I just touched some oily stuff. I want to make sure to get that off my hands. Don't want to contaminate the silkspan. Kind of like WD-40. You don't want any WD-40 around dope. Turned out good. Turned out real good. I'm happy. It'll be a profile excellence. Look at way anyway. We'll see how she flies. I need to dig out some wheels to see what I'm going to use for wheels. I think I'm going to use them wheels I bought in Dayton. I bought 8 pair. Them foamies. I think I got a couple of pair left. I have to look at my wheel box. Look at that now. I need to get landing gear made up for it. If you guys remember, yesterday I cut my finger right there and I glued it with CA. It's almost healed. Wheels. Let's look for wheels. Wheels are in this box here. Do we have it set? I got my C1. I got landing gear made up already, maybe. Sure wish I could get these again. These might work. A little heavy. Landing gear. Remake them. Oh, these might work. A little heavy. Remake them. Here's one. There's a wheel. And there's a wheel. I got these Tetras, but they're a little heavy. I mean, they're cool. Let's measure them up, see how much. Let's see. I got these big Tetras too. I got these big Jabberdoos somewhere. Two different sizes. Got baby buggy wheel. Come on. I don't have the matching. I have the matching. Where the hell is that other wheel like this? Here's the matching. No, this is a. I don't have them. Here's a smaller wheel. That's a bummer. I know I got them, just don't know where they are. I look for them. I got these kind of wheels. That's a gray. Here's two of these. Two of these. Here's another gray. We could use the grays. Vintage wheels. These are heavy. Heavy. Here's another small one. Vintage. There's a Tetra. These are Dubro. Can't believe I've lost the wheels. Don't have matching sets. What the hell's that doing in there? It must be in another box. Here's some big jobbers. Here's a tail wheel. I can use that as a tail wheel for this, I suppose. I don't want to use my good ones. Yeah, here's the other big Tetra. So we got these big Tetras. Where's the other small Tetra? There's that wheel. I remember what they came off of. So I'll use the lightest. Here's another one of them. We use the lightest pair I got. Or maybe not the lightest pair, but the coolest pair. I don't know. One of them. Oh well. Break out the scale and start weighing them up. This one here, I don't have a match to. It's got to be here somewhere. I think it's probably going to be, could be these. Or these. There's the match to that one. This one here is old and tired. Where's the match to this one? Where's the match to this one? These are good, but at least I found the big tetras. Match the big. These are $50 a pair, but they're heavy. But they're heavy. So let's get the scale out. I use 3/32 on the clips for this, but you can use 8. All I had was 3/32. Oh, wait a minute, 3/16. I mean. All right, we know these are going to be the lightest, but we're not using those. Power. Let's go to grams, grammages. This pair of wheels is 24 grams. 24. So we'll 24. And this pair of wheels is 16. This pair of wheels is no good because we're applying this in grass, but they are 14. So descending. And this pair of wheels is kind of crappy looking. 34. So too heavy. 34. This pair of wheels we're flying in grass. We're not going to be using these. 6 grams. And this pair of wheels, 40. So descending order, they go like that. So I think we're going to be using this set right here. These are too thin because profile mostly is flown in grass. These are too thin for grass. They don't, not cool looking. These are too thin. These go inside wheel pants. I think we're going to use these. They're 2-inch or 1 7/8 or whatever, and these are 2 1/4. But the difference between the two, this is them are 22 and them are 18. So 22 and 18 is 4 grams difference. And this set of wheels here is good for grass, but they're 34 grams. And this set of wheels is good for grass and pavement, but they're 40 grams. 46 grams. So these are out. Them are the wheels. Now this is a funky tail wheel. It's a 1-inch tail wheel. I usually only use 3/4, but it's a foamy, it's light, $2. I'll use that for a tail wheel. What happened here? There. So this set of wheels is 14. Let's get a tail wheel on here. I've only allowed myself 3 ounces for landing gear. So anything I can beat 3 ounces goes in the plus column. That weighs 2 grams. Yep, these are the wheels right here. So we'll set that up today too. Throw that out. We don't need that. Never use that. Never use that wire. Get rid of this. I got other wheels hanging on the wall in there, but they're too big. I got a big set of baby buggies. I'm wondering what happened to that other Tetra, that 2-inch Tetra wheel. I'm sure it'll show up somewhere. So day 16, we're pretty much underway. I mean, I think I'm going to take a break at 2 hours. That's 5 minutes from now. I am going to go around the entire airframe and glue the ribs to the covering. So I'll go over and rub it in real good on every rib, top and bottom, and I'll do that off camera. That way you don't have to watch goofball shit. First time I ever done that. But like I say, after doing 3 airplanes in 4 months, I knew that there was a problem there. So what to look for. So we'll get it all sorted out on this, and if I do another one of these, then I can, I'm banking all the information from the prior airplane to make the next one better. Yep, make the next one better. I think we'll start flying this on 62-foot lines. We'll start there. Of course, I don't know, 64s may be okay. That'd be great if it was. That way I wouldn't have to monkey with lines. I have to fly my Continental on 60 foot because it's such a crappy airfoil on that thing. But period correct. Wing stayed laser straight. Really nice. It should using that rockwood. All right, guys, I'm going to take a break. Should be back later on this afternoon after I've tidied up some things here. This video was just so I could get some footage on how I'm going to do an edited version of how to cover silkspan with silkspan. To be an hour long of all the compilation of all the stuff that I've put together here. So look for that. I think I'm going to release that to the members of the channel first. That way you don't have to sit through all the inane commentary. Had a good discussion with the Pamper Treasury guy last night. Something may come of what the discussion was about. See, at one time I was going to take over the Pampa website and do it right, but they've jerked me around so much now, I'm not interested. But I'll help them figure out how to do it cheap. We picked up slight deviation in the stabilizer. I think I can get that out when I dope the fuselage. We'll weight this down and let it set when I put the tissue on it. Put some weight on it right there. It's out probably. Well, just doing that brought it back in, so it must be humidity in the air. A couple thousandths. Hold it straight like that or down a little bit. See, now it's straight. Yeah, it's got to be humidity in the air. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you after a bit. Fair winds, tight lines. Thank you for the super chat, John. Appreciate it. See ya.